I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the Mason County Commission's business meeting for June 4th, 2024. On the Pledge of Allegiance, Phil, would you do us the honor of leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland.
I'm here.
Commissioner District 2, Kevin Schutte.
Here.
Commissioner District 3, Sharon Trask.
I'm here.
Next up, item number 4, correspondence and organizational business. Do you have correspondence to come before us?
I do. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission sent in the environmental inspection of the Cushman Hydroelectric Project. Department of Natural Resources sent notice regarding herbicide application. Dawn Johnston Dean sent in an application for the Board of Equalization. And the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board sent in notice of liquor license application from Spencer Lake Grocery and liquor license approval for Union Country Store.
Thank you. Item number 4.2, the 2025 Mason County Comprehensive Plan Community Vision Survey News Release.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Marissa Watson. Mason County is in the process of evaluating and updating the County Comprehensive Plan and Development Regulations as required per the Growth Management Act under RCW 3670A.130. Earlier this year, the county contracted with the consultant group SCJ Alliance to help gather the information needed to update the comprehensive plan elements. The scope of the work for this project is available under the heading Project Documents on the county website at https://www.masoncountywa.gov/planning/update/index.php. At this point in the process, the consultant has completed a public participation plan, community profile, and initial data gathering through orientation interviews with community stakeholders and some of our department staff. In order to gather additional information to help shape the direction of the comprehensive plan, and thus how Mason County communities take shape over the 2025 to 2045 period, we are in need of community input. A community vision survey can be accessed at bit.ly/Mason County CVS or on the Mason County 2025 Comprehensive Plan Update webpage, county web address previously mentioned in this release. The survey is open from now through June 24th, 2024. Questions should be addressed to Marissa Watson at mwatson@masoncountywa.gov or at 360-427-9670, extension 367.
Thank you. Next up is item 4.3, Notice of Funding Availability, Homeless Response System News Release. Hi.
Commissioners, I'm on Zoom. Notice of Funding Availability Homeless Response System. Mason County Public Health and Human Services is soliciting applications to 1, further develop and expand programs in the homeless response system, and 2, facilitation and consulting services for the development of a 5-year homeless response plan. Funding is from July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025. Mason County is interested in innovative approaches to program implementation where there are formal partnerships among agencies and/or bringing other fund sources to create a comprehensive program that will keep people housed and reduce returns to homelessness. In smaller rural communities, it may be more cost-effective for agencies to collaborate on resources that benefit the community in the homeless crisis response system. Local plan development will follow the guidance from the Department of Commerce. The draft guidance can be found here, 2025 to 2030 local plan guidance powered by Box. Applications are due no later than 4:00 p.m. on Friday, June 28, 2024. Application materials can be found on the Mason County website under Request for Proposals at Mason County WA Government Home. For more information, please contact Todd Parker at 360-427-9670, extension 293, or tparker@masoncountywa.gov.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mackenzie, is there any other correspondence or organizational business to come before us today?
There is not.
All right, thank you. So next up, we have our open forum for citizens input. This is your opportunity to talk to the commission on an item that is not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, of course, we ask that you wait until it comes up, and then you'll be given an opportunity to testify and talk about it at that time. But with it not being on the agenda, you will have 3 minutes to speak, up to 15 minutes total for everybody, so please be brief. We will go into the room first, and then we'll move to Zoom if there's anybody in Zoom that would like to speak. So with that being said, please raise your hand, I'll call on you, and we'll give you an opportunity to come up to the podium, say your name and perhaps where you're from, and we'll go. Please, Phil, come on up.
Good morning, commissioners and fellow citizens. My name is Philip Wilson, and I'm, excuse me, I'm a resident of Union, Washington. I just want to say I'm a Christian, and that is more important to me than anything else. The first thing that you have to do in order to become a Christian is to admit that you've made mistakes, moral mistakes among others. Secondly, Christians recognize that they're not omniscient and never will be. And so we ought to operate with humility, for pride goes before a fall. Thirdly, this is such an important belief. As Christians, we believe that all men are created equal. Clearly, we're not equal in all sorts of ways. But when we stand on the ground before God, we are all equal, from the tiniest embryo to the most aged among us. And I think this is where we want, because everybody has God's image on them, we want to be gentle with people and ruthless with ideas. This is the source of the phrase in our Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. Genesis 1 tells us that God created man, male and female, in his image. Part of this image that he has given to us is a rational mind, to reason with and consider the arguments of others. Fourthly, as a Christian, I'm told to pursue what is true. I don't want to hold on to false beliefs. Fifthly, we all have emotional connections to the things that we believe. And it is often those emotions that keep us locked in to the belief system rather than the veracity of the belief itself. We should never be afraid to ask questions. There are some very dangerous ideologies that are very destructive to our culture. They revolve around sexuality. To begin with, we should be very careful, to distinguish between ideas and people who hold them, remembering that every person is created in God's image, even our most ardent opponent. The idea that my sexual feelings and preferences are my identity really start with the early communist Antonio Gramsci, while he sat in an Italian jail and tried to figure out why Marx was wrong about his idea that the most capitalist systems were the ones that were going to become communist. He began to realize that it was actually the pre-political institutions that would keep that from happening, that it was the family and the church that were really the center that was going to keep that. Those ideas percolated around among the communist groups. The Frankfurt Group is the one that really brought them to America when they were exiled from Germany during the 1930s and came to fruition in the 1960s here in America and have taken hold and changed society in very dangerous ways. These ideas spread on the college campuses and were really brought a revolution in our understanding of sexuality and what it is. Two distinct sets of individuals have and will continue to suffer because of these sexual ideas that have infected our society, and they are women and children. And that's because sex is the thing that produces children, and children require a long period of nurture and the input of their parents, their mothers and their fathers. And as we have those withdrawn from them, we suffer as a society. So I just encourage you to recognize, again, everybody's created God's image. We can celebrate that, but we should not celebrate these ideologies that are destroying our society. So thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak at this time? That's in the room. This is, you want this opportunity to speak to the commission and the public on any item not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, you can wait, but if it's not, you're welcome to speak now. Anybody? Okay. Is there anybody in Zoom that would like to speak at this time? Please unmute yourself and say your name and I'll call on you. Anybody in Zoom? Hearing none, we will go ahead and close this aspect and move on to number 6, the adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the agenda as written.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded for the adoption of today's agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We have no minutes today, so we're going to move over to approval of the action agenda. We're going to read all items from the action agenda into the record. At that time, you'll be given an opportunity to ask a question that would help you to decide whether to pull it off for a separate vote or just to pull it off for a separate vote, and then you'll have an opportunity to testify, talk, question, or whatever you'd like. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and read the first two. And Kevin, if you wouldn't mind reading 8.3 through 8.5, and Commissioner Trask, if you read the remainder, please. Item number 8.1, approval of warrants and treasurer's electronic remittance. Claims Clearing Fund, warrants number 8105010 through 8105281. The amount, $1,941,833.55. Direct Deposit Fund, warrants number 106597 through 107012. The amount, $920,770.86. Salary Clearing Fund, warrants number 7008145 through 7008171. The amount, $626,730.77. Item number 4.2, approval of the Consolidated Homeless Grant, CHG Contract 24-46108-20, Amendment C, for inflation increases, and approval of the amendment for increased funding for the contracts with Community Lifeline, Crossroads Housing, Coyote Communities, Turning Point, and Shelton Family Center.
Mr. Chair, item 8.3, approval for environmental health to void the 16 outstanding unfiled liens as identified in attachment A. Item 8.4, approval for Public Works to submit fish barrier removal board grant program applications for the Little Skookum Barrier Culvert Replacement Project along Lynch Road and Phillips Road, and approval for the county engineer to enter into the grant agreements and any consultant agreements needed for the projects. And item 8.5, approval for Public Works to submit pedestrian and bicycle program grant program applications for McGreevy Road milepost 2.55 to milepost 6.41 bike lane safety project, and approval for the county engineer to enter into the grant agreement needed for the project.
Item 8.6, approval of the Community Development Block Grant Public Service Grant request for amendment to extend the end date from June 30th, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, and to increase the grant amount by $103,000 for a total of $308,000. Item 8.7, approval for the county administrator to sign the intent to participate form for carceral facility participation in the reentry demonstration initiative. Item 8.8, approval of the June 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2028 collective bargaining agreement for the Teamsters Local 252 for prosecutors support staff.
Thank you. Now that these items have been read into the record, this is your opportunity to ask a question if you have one. Does anybody have any questions that would help you to decide whether to take it off for any item for a separate vote? Anybody have a question? Hearing none, is there anybody on Zoom that has a question that would help them decide whether to take an item off for a separate vote? Please unmute yourself, say your name, and I'll call on you. Hearing none, are there any items anybody would like taken off for a separate vote? Commissioners first?
Not for me.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like an item taken off for a separate vote? Is there anybody on Zoom that would like an item taken off for a separate vote? Please unmute yourself and I will say your name and I'll call on you. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of today's action agenda as read, items 8.1 through 8.8.
And I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded for the approval of the action agenda in its entirety, items 8.1 through 8.8. Any comments?
No?
No? a simple one today. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Next up, item number 9, department heads or elected officials. Is there any department head or elected official who would like to speak at this time? Please raise your hand and I'll call on you. Please, Mr. Auditor.
Morning, Commissioners. Steve Dunkel, Mason County Auditor. Hey, just want to announce that the Auditor's Office is officially open for business for U.S. passports. We started yesterday. And so citizens can apply for our passport service by appointment only through the licensing and recording website. Hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Auditor. Is there any other elected official or department head who would like to speak at this time? Is there any elected official or department head on Zoom that would like to speak? Please unmute yourself and I'll call on you. Unmute yourself, say your name, and I'll call on you. Hearing none, we are going to go ahead and move on to item number 10, which is our public hearing. We're going to open the public hearing to consider approval of the amendments to the Mason County Development Area Zoning Map rezoning parcels number 42024-31-00390 from mixed use MU to commercial industrial CI and parcel number 42024-34-90048 and 42024-34-90049 from commercial industrial CI to mixed use, all in the Shelton urban growth area. Staff, Scott Rudy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Scott Rudy here on behalf of the Planning Department. We are requesting approval and adoption of the amendment of this Mason County Development Area rezoning. It has been approved by the PAC and also staff recommends approval. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, any questions?
No questions for me.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience who has a question of staff regarding the presentation that was just given? If so, raise your hand and I'll call on you. Is there anybody in Zoom that has a question for staff regarding the presentation that was just given? If so, unmute yourself, say your name, and I'll call on you. Hearing none, we will move into public testimony. Is there any public who would like to testify at this time? If so, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Is there anybody in Zoom who would like to testify at this time? Please raise your hand or unmute yourself and I say your name and I will call on you. Hearing none, we'll close public testimony and go into commissioner deliberations or a motion. Commissioners, I would like to ask if there's a motion that we make it conditional on the finalization of the boundary line adjustments on the parcels.
Mr. Chair, I move approval and adoption of amendment to the Mason County Development Areas zoning map, rezoning parcel number 42024-31-00390 from mixed use to commercial industrial, and parcels 42024-34-90048 and 4204-34-90049 from commercial industrial to mixed use, all in the Shelton UGA and contingent upon boundary line adjustments.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded for the approval and adoption of an amendment to the Mason County Development Area zoning map, rezoning parcel 42024-31-00390 from mixed use to commercial industrial, and parcels 42024-34-90048 and 42024-34-90049 from commercial industrial to mixed use, all in the Shelton UGA, conditional on the finalization of the boundary line adjustments. Any discussion?
No, it's mental.
Yeah. None for me either. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It carries and that hearing is closed. All right.
No stuff.
So next up, we're gonna go to our board reports and calendars. Commissioner Trask, if you would lead us off, Commissioner Schutte, and then myself.
Thank you, Commissioner. Find my calendar. You know, one thing that I wanted to do was bring up that I was at the Washington State Association of Counties Board of Directors meeting and the Legislative Steering Committee meeting, and they did come up with 7 priorities. And so I thought that I would mention those real quick. New county revenue, including property tax limit, general sales authority, excise tax authority, utility, gross receipts, sales, and B&O, occupation taxes and other taxes, mostly for urban areas. Funding for indigent defense, funding for rural county coroners, requiring FSEC, it's the Emergency Facility Site Evaluation Committee. Most of that is dealing with windmills and things like that, so they take up a lot of space and they're exempt from taxes, so there's 5. The fifth one was creating accountability in the behavioral health continuum of services by improving the contract standards for procurement, and then addressing county housing access and affordability, and funding for the preservation and maintenance of the county transportation system. Great conversations with other commissioners, and it's kind of fun hearing what's happening in other counties. Makes you understand that they do have differences, especially the east side with their rural farms and areas, and then with us, we have the coastal. So it's kind of interesting to get people together so you can just kind of brainstorm and figure things out and work together. Let's see, later on today, we have a workshop on reorg for the BOCC departments. This afternoon, there's a mental health SUD homeless roundtable at the Shelton Civic Center. Area Agency on Aging meeting tomorrow, Public Works Board Executive Committee meeting. There is a campaign kickoff later that night. Of course, 'tis the season. And I have a Public Works Board meeting, Women's Republican meeting, another homelessness meeting, a briefing, Wasac Virtual Assembly, local emergency planning meeting, business after hours with Hood Canal Communications, an EDC meeting, Public Works Board Executive Committee meeting, Pac Mountain Executive Preliminary Budget meeting. One of my friends is heading off to Germany. She's got a new job over there, so we're going to have her farewell. Then we're back on Monday for briefings and another Wasac Virtual Assembly.
Mr. Chair, looking forward, have a meeting with our congressional delegation staff after our workshop this morning. Then also be at the mental health roundtable. Also be at the campaign kickoff event on Thursday. Then have a meeting with Olympic College's president Marty Cavaluzzi. Meeting with Stephanie Rowland from the North Mason Chamber. Have an IT steering committee RFP interview for our web design RFP that we put out a few weeks ago. Also have the Crisis System of Care Work Group meeting with Mason Health to discuss primary care access. Have a MaceCom board meeting. Also be speaking to the Christmastown Kiwanis group, business after hours at Hood Canal Communications. EDC board meeting, provider with a purpose roundtable to with Youth Connection and some of our other nonprofits. Also have a meeting of the Clean Water District, Hood Canal Coordinating Council annual meeting, and my bi-weekly BHASO staff check-in before our next meeting in 2 weeks.
This last week, we had Mason Transit Authority Pioneer School District had a special meeting because they had a shortfall. I was asked to attend that. We had a special meeting for Fire District 12, where we interviewed the candidates and appointed, and I think that was a big thing for all of us to get that done. Peninsula Regional Transportation Funding Organization, or funding meeting for the Peninsula Regional Transportation Organization, a school board meeting for the Pioneer School District. I did not make the left board meeting. We had a work study session coming up, North Mason Regional Fire Authority after that. I'll be meeting with the Farm Bureau this next week here, Rotary meetings, Peter with the tribes, our IDS meeting, and looking for different ways to offset these requirements for our public defenders. Victor Potluck, a young man I'm very proud of. Walter Blush is a boxer and he's fighting. He's pretty amazing. I'm pretty proud of him. I will be attending that. Olympic Regional Clean Air Authority, Sheriff's Breakfast, North Mason Candidate Forum Night, and that brings us back and we do it again. With that,
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
hearing no objection, we are adjourned.